Ms. Rochto, Ms. Kemp, I want to thank you for bringing up this problem with the Jones Act, otherwise known as the Death on the High Seas Act, because a lot of people don't appreciate what's going on out on those drilling platforms. They don't know that they are flagged vessels and that the Deepwater Horizon rig was flagged as a vessel in the Marshall Islands. Were you aware of that?
No, I wasn't.
And that because they are a flagged vessel, they are subject to the Jones Act limitations, which are very restrictive. They don't provide any compensation for quality of life damages, for the loss, the emotional loss that the two of you have, for losing your husband, for the emotional loss that your children have, for the fact that your husband won't be there for their high school graduations or their weddings or those wonderful times that families get to celebrate. If this had happened on land under the laws of Louisiana and almost every other state, your claims would have been significantly greater and different, because those quality of life damages are recognized, but they're not under the federal law known as the Jones Act. And that's the concern both of you were expressing. Is that what you were sharing with the committee?
Yes.
Okay. Now, one of the things that we do know is that Transocean was involved in reaching out to families after this disaster occurred. And Ms. Rochto, you talked about being contacted, I think it was, you said 6 o'clock in the morning by phone call?
Actually, my mother woke me up. She had gotten a phone call from a friend of a friend that was on another rig. I actually did not hear from Transocean until 11:22 that afternoon to ask if it was a good contact number. And then I again talked to him at 2:20, and they did not confirm that he was on the missing list till around 4, when I was already in Fouchon.
Can you just tell us the extent of your contact with a representative from Transocean as you went through that difficult first period?
Are you talking like the first day?
Yes.
The first day, I spoke with them periodically, pretty much every hour, but it was this, after 11 is when I spoke with them pretty much every hour, but it was never any new information. Like I said, I didn't actually find out he was on the missing list till around 4. My mom actually is the one that woke me up and told me I had heard that there was some in different hospitals that had already been contacted. I actually contacted different hospitals that I'd heard some were at. We made it down to Port Fouchon. We stayed down there, and that's where we found out the boat was supposed to be coming in, went to where the seaport where the boat was supposed to be coming in, and that's about the time that I found out he was on the missing list.
And when you talk about the boat coming in, are you referring to
the crew boat that was carrying the men, the survivors? Bringing
the survivors back to shore. What were you told, if anything, about the circumstances that had led to this disaster?
At that point, at the seaport, I really didn't know much. I knew what I had watched at the 3 o'clock news conference on the TV. That was the extent. At 3 o'clock, when I watched the news conference, that was the most information I'd heard then. The only thing I knew up till that point was that there had been an explosion.
When was the first time you had contact with anyone from Transocean that gave you some sense of explanation of what had happened to your husband?
Never. Never.
And so to this day, you've never received an explanation?
No.
Okay. And Ms. Kemp, I see you also responding. Tell us what your experience was like in dealing with Transocean.
I received a call at approximately 4:30 on April 21st. The lady told me that there had been an explosion on the Deepwater Horizon and an emergency evacuation was taking place and the Coast Guard was on the scene. I immediately jumped to my feet and said, "Where is my husband?" And she said, "At this time, we don't know." And I said, "Can you tell me anything about him, anything about the crew?" "No, ma'am, we don't have any information." I said, "Okay." I took her name, her phone number, and I said that I would be contacting you. I then, about 6 o'clock that morning, I called, rode back and forth with Wyman Wheeler, and I called his home, and Becky was already en route to New Orleans, his wife, to he was one of the ones injured. And I said, where is Wyatt? What's going on? And she said, Wyman doesn't know where anybody is. I don't have a clue. When I get down there, I'll try to find out something for you and get back with you. Transocean set up a hotline. I started calling the hotline every hour on the hour. And